I know I've mentioned this before, but not everyone has heard it. We have this saying when we have a disagreement or when things are really kind of coming to a head and we're just like butting heads and not seeing eye to eye, one of us will invariably say, do you want to be right or do you want to be friends? And that totally breaks the ice, it gets us both laughing, and then we can kind of move forward with whatever it is that is going on. And I thought, oh, this is great, it's something Glenn came up with, it's super cool. And then I found out that there's actually something that people do say, I don't know where it comes from, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And so I thought that that was very, very fitting, you know, for a month of perspective, because in New Thought, we know, or we talk about, we're always choosing. Every single moment, we are choosing something, whether we are aware of it or not. And so we get to decide, do we want to be right about the thoughts that we're thinking, even if they're not true? We want to like anchor in there, or do we want to be happy? Which would mean letting go of these thoughts sometimes. But which one do you want to choose? It's up to you, right? And so the thing that I want to anchor in this month is positive intelligence. And I've talked about it before a few times. It is this paradigm that was formulated, I guess, by Shirzad, Chamine. And it is based in this idea that we are in one of two perspectives at any given time. We're either in our sage perspective or we're in the judge perspective. And the judge is accompanied by 9 pesky saboteurs. And when we were young, these saboteurs came into play to protect us from whatever was going on, whatever we couldn't easily handle. But most of the time, for most people, they end up sticking around and overstaying their welcome and wreaking havoc with all of our well-meaning intentions and conscious thoughts. And so some of the saboteurs, there are 9 of them, they have just found in their research. There is an overachiever, there is a controller, there is a pleaser, there is a hypervigilant one, there is a victim, there are other ones which I can't remember right now, an avoider. And so all of these really, it's not like they're separate from us, they are aspects of our personalities, even archetypes, if you will, that we can buy into at any time without even knowing it. And so what positive intelligence does, and it just lines up so beautifully with Science of Mind and New Thought, is it helps us to get out of the back part of our brain, which is the limbic, the old part of our brain, and into the middle prefrontal cortex. So out of the back part, where anxiety, fear, anger, overwhelm, sadness, that kind of stuff are activated, and to move into the middle prefrontal cortex, which is where we then come into the present moment. And we are clear. We are calm, we are focused, and because of that, can make better decisions. We can choose to be happy. Here in the back, we could be fighting and like, I don't know how, it doesn't make sense, forget it, I don't deserve it, blah, 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 blah. We have to get out of that back part of the brain. If we don't get out of that back part of the brain, this is not going to work, and this is what we need to have work. So today, as I was listening to the little, not video, recording in the morning after I did my meditation, then it was about convert or accept. And so the idea here is that when you are in a moment, when something is happening, let's say something seemingly negative, then you can choose to either convert it or you can accept it. If you accept it, we're kind of going the Michael Singer route, or the Tara Brach route, or maybe sort of a Buddhist route. We're just accepting and allowing for whatever it is to occur without getting attached or caught up in any of the feelings that might be coming up because of it. So we're in a slightly more curious and observational state, just allowing things, it's just happening, right? Life is happening. Not life is happening to me, life is happening. Or we can convert it. And if we convert, then we're going beyond that, and we're looking for the gift and opportunity in what is happening. So not so much of like, oh my God, why is this happening? I can't believe this is happening to me, victim, victim, victim. But thinking, okay, this is happening. It kind of sucks. I don't like it. And there is something in here that I can learn. There is some kind of gift, there is some kind of opportunity here which can help me to move forward in the next moment and to be open to whatever that is. And sometimes we don't know in that moment. Sometimes it takes a lot of moments, days, weeks, months, years, whatever, for us to see a billboard, for someone to say something, for something else to happen. oh, now it makes sense. But as long as we're open, we open ourselves up through that curiosity to discovering what that gift and opportunity is, and we don't get caught up in the negativity. So my title today is, what's your perspective? And then the subtitle, which perspective will you choose? Because as we talk about again and again and again, every moment we are not only at choice, we are actively choosing. But how are we choosing? Are we choosing with our conscious mind? Are we choosing with our subjective mind? Where all of the beliefs of all time, all the thoughts, all ideas, at least according to Science of Mind, where they all reside. This is that infinite field of potentiality where everything is possible. But by making the choice that we make, we go and we attend to something, and that one thing, boom, becomes our reality. But the reality that we experience, if it's not what we're consciously thinking with our conscious mind, it's because there's some kind of belief or beliefs in our subjective mind which are clouding or informing those ideas or thoughts, right? So we got to get clear on what is it that we're choosing, but even more so, what are we choosing from? And that's where perspective comes into play. We got to be clear, are we choosing from our sage, as our sage? Or are we choosing as the judge, which is constantly critical and demeaning and pointing the finger of you can't do it, you're not worthy, you don't know, you don't have the information, nobody wants to hear what you have to say. You know, and then there are the 9 saboteurs, they're like cheering behind, you know, going, oh, this always happens to me. Oh, but you know what, if I do this, then maybe this will work out. And if I just make sure that everybody else around me is happy, then okay, things will work out. There's so many different ways that we can try and manipulate our life experience, but how are we doing it? Are we showing up as that allness, that beingness, the God stuff that we are, the sage, or are we showing up as the judge and the saboteurs, which is all the circumstances, all the stuff, even the thoughts that are floating around in our heads? And so what's your perspective? It's up to you to choose. It's up to you to decide. If your life is great and you're having a wonderful time, fantastic. Maybe your perspective doesn't need changing. But if you're thinking things and they're not happening, if you have dreams and visions and passions and desires and they're just not being demonstrated, maybe it's time to shift your perspective. Maybe it's time to consider, maybe, that you're tuning in more to what the saboteurs and the judge are telling you, these recorded loops that have been there since childhood that are no longer helpful, and then go to your sage and just tune in, going from the back of the brain to the front of the brain. Excuse me. So there's a quote in The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, and where he says, "The law of mind obeys the orders that are given it, whether we are conscious or unconscious that such orders are being given." So we need to know, are we making decisions? Are we choosing consciously or unconsciously? Are we choosing with awareness or just kind of being carried away by the flow? We get to decide. No one's making those choices for us. No one is creating our perspective for us. No one else, not our parents, not our community, not me standing at the front of the room, not the media, not the government, not anything that is going on. We decide for ourselves. That's how powerful we are. Being entirely sensitive to our thought and by its very nature absolutely receptive as well as intelligent and responsive to it, and at the same time being creative, it is easy to see what a tremendous power we have at our conscious disposal. So the work is to sort of notice what I'm thinking, is that demonstrating, and if it's not demonstrating, how can I change my mind? Literally, how can I change my mind, shift my perspective, move from here to here, so that what I'm thinking is what I'm actually experiencing. That's what we're doing all the time. That's it. You know, simple, not always easy. A lot of times not easy. Well, that's a belief, right? It can change any time. Now, the meditation today was part of a bigger meditation on freedom from sensitiveness, but I just love this statement when I saw it. I love my friends and they love me, and that love is in and of God, and cannot be marred nor hindered. I am filled with joy and love forever. That's Ernest Holmes from The Science of Mind from 1929. And so in it, he's talking about love. He's talking about how we give love, how we receive love, but he's also reminding us that we are that love. Love is just not just an emotion or a feeling. It is a state of being. It is a consciousness. It is something that we are. And the more that we open up to that knowing, the more that we remember, the more that we continually shift from here to here, from here to here, from saboteur, from whatever judge, to here to the sage, the more we open up, the more we sort of grow the muscle, our spiritual muscle, but also our physical, mental muscle of being able to stay in that sage mode, or remember that we are God, that we are love, every moment of every day. And the more we practice it, and it is an ongoing practice, it's not about just coming here once a week and then you're done. Think of going to the gym. Remember, if you went to the physical gym and you worked out for like 2 hours, fantastic. Are you set for the week? No. If you came once a year, are you set for the year? No. It is within the realm of possibility, but collective consciousness is super strong. And in the collective consciousness, the idea is, no, you need to practice every single day. So today's just a reminder. This is part of your practice. Every single one of you have your practices, whatever they are, and those are the things that on a daily basis are in place to help remind you that you are God, that you are bigger, more powerful, more resilient, more creative than anything that you could ever think, believe, or feel, than anything you could ever experience. So something that I was sort of thinking about this morning. When we shift perspective, we cultivate patience, understanding, and compassion for ourselves, each other, and our world, creating a more loving, kind, and harmonious life experience for all. We are always at choice as to how we show up. We are always at choice as to how we choose, and perspective is the thing that will influence our choices. So we really want to sort of look at, are we choosing as the sage, or are we choosing as the judge? Are we choosing from the inner, or are we choosing from the outer? Are we choosing from oneness as oneness, or are we continually looking at separation and duality and making excuses for, my life isn't working because? Back to Sandy, it's me. What do I need to do? What's mine to do here? And then are we also tuning into what's possible, or are we anchoring ourselves in, well, this is the way it's always been, so this is the way it's always going to be? Thomas Troward, principle is not bound by precedent. Still my absolute 100% favorite spiritual truth. Precedent, who and what we are. God, love, universe, infinite, creativity, expressing all the time. That's who we are, period, end of sentence. Precedent, something that happened, something that could happen. It may feel like it influences us. It may feel like it has some kind of hold on us if we're carrying it with us from the past into the present moment. But ultimately, that's just our perception. If we shift our perspective, we remember we are bigger than all of it. We're more powerful than all of it. And that's what we got to remember. That's what we got to embrace. That's what we got to embody. So my questions to you are, knowing that all choices are based on perspective, what's your perspective, and which perspective will you choose? Sage, judge, absolute, relative, inner, outer, oneness, duality. I could go on. Ultimately, the choice, as always, is up to you. Thank you, and so it is.